How y'all doing? Quick update video. Got the engine and transmission in, got the cross member in. I got to drill a couple more holes on this side and the other side. Not sure what I'm going to do yet. Might not do anything. It's got 2 bolts. 2 bolts are enough. But no, it used to have this little, where'd it go? It used to have that piece right there that bolted up to the top of the frame and then bolted to the cross member, and those holes no longer line up with anything, and I can't get a drill on it unless I remove the freaking cab. So that's not gonna happen. 2 bolts are enough. It's, you know, it's not going anywhere. This side has got 2 bolts in it, but one's up at the top of the frame and one's at the bottom. So I'd really like, you know, there at least to be 2 on the bottom. So yeah, so that's awesome. So I got to do some drilling and make some more mounts for that cross member to stiffen it up, and it'll probably be fine. But it's getting there. All the parts are here. The speedometer housing and the gear showed up, and it's probably going to be completely not accurate 100% at all. It's the smallest gear I could get for this was like a 34 tooth or something like that, and yeah, it had a 20 tooth in it. And like I said, it's got a 273 rear gear. Actually, theoretically, if this engine would rev up to 7,000 RPMs in overdrive with this axle, this truck would go 300 mile an hour. But it's not got the power to do that. I don't want to go that fast. Push the glass in before it went that fast. But so I'm gonna have to change that axle out to like a 410 gear, or a 373 is even a little tall with this overdrive and this transmission. I'd rather have like a 410 gear, 411 gear, you know, whatever you can get for this axle, or just swap a completely different axle into it. I got another one of these trucks at the landfill. It's got a good rear axle in it. I don't know what ratio it is, but it had an overdrive transmission, so it ain't going to be a 273. It'll probably be like a 328. I've seen that there's a few different gears that was in these trucks, depending on if it was V8, V6. The one at work is a V6 truck that had a V8 swapped into it, so it's probably got a lower geared rear axle. I need to go check, see what ratio that is. I might need to just use that and put a spool in it. I'd rather not have to rebuild this axle, but I mean, if I got to, I got to. But I know on the S10s, like if you had a 308 gear, you couldn't put a 410 gear set in the housing. Something about the housing was different and it wouldn't work. And the other way around, if you had a 410 gear set, you couldn't put a 308 gear in it. So I don't know if these are the same way. I've never messed with them. They've always just held up. So I think this has got a 10 bolt in it. But yeah, I can see that breaking in the near future a lot, along with the drive shaft. The drive shaft is not really that heavy duty. It's got some miles on it. It's got some rust on it. That's for sure. It feels a little thin, but you know, we'll see what happens. I'll try not to just, you know, floor the hell out of it and break everything. I'm gonna be easy on it for a little bit, get the motor and transmission broke in, probably for a little, you know, it needs to be at least like 1,000 miles not running the crap out of it, probably. That's gonna be real hard to do. So yeah, that's gonna be real hard to do. It's, you know, the first time I drive it down the highway, I'm gonna want to floor it, and I shouldn't, but yeah, it's way over geared, so it's probably gonna be a dog. Like I said, it's got 273 gears in it, so it's either gonna, I don't know, going 60 mile an hour in first gear sometimes ain't a bad thing, I guess, but it's gonna be funny driving down the highway and you floor it and it goes into first gear. It just lights that one rear tire off. This thing's gonna spin one tire forever. You gotta think, if it's a 273 gear with a 28-inch tall tire, it's like 28.5 inches tall, with a .70 overdrive, 7,000 RPMs. That's over 300 mile an hour to the tires. If you one wheel peel that, which means that tire's not spinning at all, this tire's spinning twice as fast because it's splitting the power to the... When you do a one wheel peel burnout, if your speedometer says 30 mile an hour, that one tire is spinning 60 mile an hour. That's just the way it works. It's how the gearing and the axle works. You know, if you spin both of them at the same time, that's 30 mile an hour. You're just spinning the one, that's 60 if your speedometer says 30. So if we get this thing to do a one wheel peel burnout in overdrive, that tire is going to be spinning over 600 miles an hour. There's no way. Something's going to break, so we got to change that axle out pretty much immediately after we get this thing on the road. I'm going to baby it around and try not to break stuff while I'm looking for a different axle, but we need at least I'd like to have a 410, 411 gear. 373s would be okay, but nothing less than that. Like I'd like to have I'd like to have like a 456 gear for this thing, but you know, I got overdrive. Anyway, so yeah, that's where I'm at. And I don't have my air conditioning installed because it all hasn't arrived yet. So sorry about the noise that thing's making. It is almost kind of keeping this shop cool, but mostly it's blowing a bunch of hot air out my furnace pipe and sucking a bunch of hot air in from the door, so it's not really doing a lot in here. It's mostly just wasting my electric.